Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Finishing up another packed weekend of NBA playoff basketball. Our first completed week of the NBA playoffs in the books, and it was an unbelievable playoff weekend in general. To start off the show, we got another packed show for you guys lined up for you guys today. Starting right off the top, we're going to talk a little bit about the Los Angeles Lakers falling down 3-1 to the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's a series a lot of people have had their eyes on. Honestly, a series that's that was kind of underrated to start off the playoffs. A lot of people kind of possibly overrating the Lakers a little bit. We're going to get into that in the first segment of our show. Underrating the Timberwolves, overrating the Lakers. Not talking a whole lot about the Lakers' issues overall, and Minnesota's absolutely exploited those to perfection in this series. It's a big reason why they're up 3-1 in this series, and it's a big reason why they won Game 4 on Sunday afternoon. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Next from there, we're going to take a look at the New York Knicks and Detroit Pistons series. Pistons now down 3-1 in that series. Something I cannot believe they drop both games at home this weekend. Flat out experience showing its colors here, showing why experience matters in the playoffs, and just overall the Pistons' youth is in full display. We're going to talk a whole lot about that in the second segment of our show. And then from there, we're going to talk a little bit about the Orlando Magic, how they possibly might have the most room to improve in the offseason with how they've played against the Boston Celtics in their series. That series now 3-1 in favor of Boston, but these last two games in Orlando have been both unbelievable games, really. Two games that a lot of people have been underrating, two games that a lot of people said the Orlando Magic have no chance, the Celtics are going to sweep. Orlando heard all of that and said, nah, we're not gonna listen to that today. So we're gonna talk a whole lot about the Orlando Magic, where they can improve upon, where their strengths lie, and where they stack up with the rest of the Eastern Conference. And then from there, we're gonna talk a little bit about the Indiana Pacers and Milwaukee Bucks series. That series now 3-1 in favor of the Indiana Pacers. We'll talk a little bit about Damian Lillard and his health, a little bit of a health scare yesterday in the game against the Indiana Pacers, falling down in what looked like a non-contact injury and what's now been ruled what potentially could be a severe one, and what it could be ruled. So we'll talk about that later in the show. And then from there, just preview the Rockets and Warriors series, which is 2-1 in favor of this Golden State Warriors team. But before I move any further, I know that was a whole lot. I'm sorry. It's just packed weekend of NBA basketball sports. Have to give you guys a lineup of the show, what the show's going to look like before we get deeper into this one. But before I move any further, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network content. Also, we get a number of questions that come in during the show, so to ensure that your question gets read on air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at GSMCpodcast.net. This puts your question at the top of the list so I see it. It also really helps out the show. Again, the link is GSMCpodcast.net for all your questions and comments. But getting right into it here, we had an absolutely packed weekend of NBA playoff basketball, especially on Sunday. Sunday, we had 4 games, all running from 1 p.m. to about midnight Eastern time. West Coast, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., give or take, something like that, 9:30. It was an unbelievably packed weekend of sports, and especially in the NBA, this is the best time. This is the best time of year for a lot of sports these days. This is the best time of teams teams working for this time of year, building their success, building their momentum for right now. So let's just get right into it. The Los Angeles Lakers down 3-1 against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Something a lot of people did not expect, myself included. I picked the Los Angeles Lakers to win this one in 6 games. I thought the star power of Luka Doncic and LeBron James would be too much for an Anthony Edwards to handle by himself. let's just say I did not expect the guys that Anthony Edwards had around him, and I absolutely underrated those guys. Guys like Jaden McDaniels, guys like Julius Randle, Naz Reid, Dante DiVincenzo on the defensive end of the ball. Guys, this Minnesota Timberwolves team is not a bad team. It's their team. They're proving right now that this Minnesota Timberwolves team can go all the way to the conference finals, if not the NBA finals. If they pull I think they're scratching the surface for one of those teams that can contend with the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's what this Timberwolves team is proving right now. A young Timberwolves team. They got a lot of veterans with adding Julius Randle to the team in the offseason, continuing to grow around their core guys of Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, adding a Dante DiVincenzo, bringing him from the New York Knicks, and with a trade with sending Karl Anthony Towns to New York. Still have Rudy Gobert and a Defensive Player of the Year candidate in as their center. This team is by far. I don't know what I was thinking. Like, what were any of us thinking? To underrate a team like this? On paper, this team can stack up with anybody in the Western Conference. But when you watch them in person, when Julius Randle can shoot he shot 9 for 22, but in the first half he was lights out from his shot was lights out in general in the first half. Anthony Edwards dropping 43 points in Game 4. 43 points, 12 of 23, 5 of 10 from three-point range. Absolutely leading the way for this Minnesota Timberwolves team. Jaden McDaniels continuing to prove why he's an X factor in this series. Game 1 in averages. In the games that they won in Game 1 and Game 3, I believe he's averaged about 25 points in both of those games. Game 2, I believe he only had 9 points. And it was a big reason why that offense was sputtering the way it was in Los Angeles. But yeah, he's been an absolute crucial X factor on the offensive end, continuing to be a defensive guru. Only one steal in Game 1, in Game 4, but continued to be causing Luka Doncic a whole bunch of problems on the offensive end of the ball. Overall, Jaden McDaniels is a top wing defender in this league. We know he is. He's Marcus Smart-esque in terms of how he can defend the wing offensive players like the Jason Tatums of the world, the Luka Doncic, the SGAs of the world. Simple point guard, small shooting guard, small forward is right in Jaden McDaniels' wheelhouse, and he's continuing to prove that right now. Another player that's not gotten a lot of love and continued to prove his worth, especially in the fourth quarter of Game 4, is Naz Reid. A player that scored all 12 of his points in the fourth quarter, did not miss a shot in the fourth quarter, made big bucket after big bucket down the stretch in the clutch. I believe he made 2 or 3 threes in a row in the last 4 minutes of the game. The Lakers, the Timberwolves stole this game. The Lakers had the lead in this game for 96% of it. All the way up to about the 4-minute mark of the fourth quarter. They had control. They went into the fourth quarter with a 10-point lead. They went into halftime with the lead. They held control of this game offensively better than I've seen them all season, all playoffs. In all of their games, this was their best game offensively, for sure. But the way they were a balanced attack, the way they controlled the pace, the way they forced the Minnesota Timberwolves to take bad shots early on, at least before the fourth quarter, it was nothing short of, I don't want to call it, I would call it spectacular if they won, but it was a great performance offensively from this team. Luka Doncic finishing with 38 points, LeBron with 28 and 12, 27 points to 12 rebounds. Rui Hachimura being the X factor in this one, finishing with 23 points. Rui Hachimura was absolutely an X factor in this one. His shooting down the stretch, his shooting overall in the whole game, he finished with 23 points. Shot 5 of 10 from three-point range, shot 9 of 16 from the field. Major props to Rui Hachimura, a player that has been kind of not taking a hit, but a guy after the Anthony Davis trade, bringing Jackson Hayes with being the big name in the center position, the big man position for this team. But Rui Hachimura has been, the way he can shoot the ball, the way he can play like a Karl Anthony Towns-esque. He can shoot, he can defend, he can get in the low post. I called him, while I was watching, I called him masked up Rui because he had the mask on his face. We all remember masked up Kyrie or LeBron back in the day in those Cleveland days. It was a great performance from Rui, and I was really happy to see his success. He's a player that does not get a lot of love, especially with the big three in LA. Kind of just gets the eye to the side. Just nobody really, just good to see him succeed overall. But yeah, I think this game, I don't have a whole lot of time in this segment, but I'll get into it really quickly. This game came down to what I've mentioned time and time again with this Los Angeles Lakers team. Something that's been glaring since probably game 2. When they lost game 3 the way the Lakers did, even though Luka Doncic was sick, there was reports that Luka Doncic was throwing up on the sideline, having a tough time, especially when he reached the fourth quarter of that game, just tired, exhausted, only finished with 17 points in game 3. Something we don't really expect from Luka Doncic come playoff time very much. But Luka Doncic cannot do it by himself. LeBron James cannot do it by himself. When you have 5 players playing 32 minutes in the second half, playing every minute of the second half, all 5 players not playing any substitutions, and you expect a 40-year-old, you look at a 40-year-old in LeBron James that plays 46 minutes and scores 0 points in the fourth quarter because he gets 0 rest in the second half. Turnover after turnover. He's going to get a lot. He got so much heat because of this game. You saw it time and time again. It's everywhere online right now. And it's because he has the name and he has the image that he has, the brand that LeBron James holds. But you have to look beyond LeBron in this state. In this one, you cannot look at LeBron and say this one's on LeBron. To have 7 turnovers combined between Luka and LeBron, to have all 5 players playing every minute of the second half, to have almost no contribution from your bench, Dorian Finney-Smith scoring 6 points off your bench. Trying to pull up exactly how many points the full bench scored, but overall, just not. What are you going to do? Against a team like the Minnesota Timberwolves that's so well balanced, top to down, from start to finish. Dante DiVincenzo, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Naz Reid, Mike Conley, Rudy Gobert, Jaden McDaniels, Julius Randle. The only player that got minutes last night that doesn't really have much of a name, that we don't know much about, is Tyler Shannon Jr. And I'm sorry, I don't know who that is. I don't watch a whole lot of Timberwolves basketball, but from outside of the 9 names that I mentioned, 8 of them are significant good role players. A well-balanced team centered around Anthony Edwards. They brought Julius Randle in to give him some more offensive help. They still have Rudy Gobert as the lob threat. They still have Jaden McDaniels as the defensive guy. They still have Mike Conley as the floor general for this team. This is one of the most well-balanced teams in the NBA, and that matters in the NBA playoffs. As much as star power matters, like the Lakers have with LeBron and Luka, overall well-balanced also is key in the playoffs, and that's what the Timberwolves proved last night in this one. Major props to them. They're up 3-1, and it looks like the Lakers are going down. So we're going to have to make a separate segment about what really transpired in Los Angeles this season, giving a full recap from the Luka trade to Anthony Davis in the regular season, the way he was showing out the first 2/3 of the season before February rolled around, and then what really happened to this team in the playoffs. We're going to have to go over everything that happened in this one. So that'll be something for another day, though. So I'm going to take another short break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the New York Knicks going up 3-1 on the Detroit Pistons. Overall, something I did not expect from the Detroit Pistons, and an X factor that proved itself not only in Game 3, but in Game 4 as well. 2 games that really revolved around one guy in particular that has not gotten a whole lot of love from me, a player that I've kind of not really scoffed at or sneezed at, but somebody that I've underrated for a while, and it's time to give him his flowers. I'm going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at New York Knicks basketball. Don't go anywhere.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting right back into it here, we're going to take a look at the New York Knicks Detroit Pistons series. 2 games this weekend, both Friday and Sunday. Both games in Detroit, both massive games that flew way under the radar, way more than they should have. And because of it, the 2 games that the New York Knicks, both Game 3 was more of an all-around game for the New York Knicks. From start to finish, they led that one. So I wouldn't call that one much of a steal. But Game 4, Cade Cunningham showed up and showed out and did his best to will this team to a Game 4 win. And they still fall in this one. And the New York Knicks now take a 3-1 commanding lead going back to New York, looking to close out the series on Wednesday night. We're going to take a look at both sides of this one, from the New York Knicks to the Detroit Pistons. What really led to the New York Knicks possibly winning this series on Wednesday, or in general, whether it's Wednesday, whether it's Friday back in Detroit. In general, I'm picking New York to win this one. It's just for the Detroit Pistons team, a young group that doesn't have a whole lot of experience. It's just what else can you expect from them? They're doing the best they can, and I just don't know if I can't pick them to win 3 out of their last 4 games. So that'll probably be that. But before I move any further, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network content. Also, we get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show. So to ensure that your question gets read on air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net. This puts your question at the top of the list so that I see it, and it also really helps out the show. Again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net for all your questions and comments. And I've mentioned it before, you guys are a big part of what we do here. Let us know what we're doing well. Let us know what we can improve upon. And we're just looking to create a better product for you guys here. You guys are a big part of what we do, so we appreciate everything, the good, the bad, any criticism or comments at all. Please let us know in the comment section below. But not before I move any further, let's get right into it here, because this series is one that's just been one crazy roller coaster ride, physical series. The Bad Boy Pistons, and this year's Bad Boy Pistons 2, whatever you want to call it, the recreation, the resurrection, whatever you want to call it, this series has proved it. This series, the Detroit Pistons have proved it. They have earned that title, and they absolutely deserve it. Cade Cunningham finishing with 25 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. Second player in Detroit Pistons history with a triple-double outside of Isaiah Thomas back in the day in the 90s. Major props to Cade Cunningham, a young, prospering star that's growing into the league. That if they can continue to build around him, if he can continue to gain experience, Jalen Duren continues to grow. Jaden Ivey comes back into the lineup. Isaiah Stewart, Asher Thompson, Malik Beasley stays with the team and continues to grow with the young guys and mentor them as Beasley's more of I wouldn't call him a veteran, but he's in the prime of his career at 29 years of age, or going to be 29 years of age next year. They have a great group of guys around this team, and they have a legit defense. They have one of the best defense in the NBA. They've proved it time and time again. They proved it last night. But the star of this one, there were two stars of this one. As much as I love Cade Cunningham, well, three if we're including Cade. But two of them were on the New York Knicks yesterday. One of them's name is Jalen Brunson. And we all know I was going to say that name, Jalen Brunson being the leader of this team, with finishing with 32 points and 11 assists. Did have a little bit of an injury scare in the middle of the third quarter, going down with an ankle injury. I believe it was either Asher. I think it was Asher Thompson. I can't remember exactly who. I believe it was Asher Thompson, but basically the ball going out of bounds, loose ball. Jalen Brunson, Asher Thompson diving for it. Jalen being closer to it, diving on it first. Asher pretty much kind of not landed, but got his leg tangled with Jalen Brunson's leg. Unfortunately, it was the same ankle that Brunson hurt earlier in the season, about a month, not even 2 months ago, about a month and a half ago against the Lakers. Same ankle. We're still waiting to hear if it was an ankle injury or a knee injury. But basically, it was his left leg. Same leg that he hurt a month and a half ago. Same leg that he came back pretty quickly from. Whether it was speedy, whether it was early, that's remained to be seen. We'll never know. But I personally didn't think Jalen Brunson was going to come back to this one. I thought Jalen Brunson was going to be done, sit down, wait the rest of game 4 out. New York Knicks probably go back to Detroit 2-2, and that would be that. But Jalen Brunson had other plans in this one. Jalen Brunson coming back in the fourth quarter, honestly showing up and showing out, carrying this offense over the last 8 minutes or so. And outside of the next player I'm going to be talking about, Jalen Brunson was the MVP of this game. He was the reason why they won this game, and him being able to facilitate the offense, whether it was carrying them offensively, scoring wise, or facilitating players to be open, regardless of what it was. Major props to Jalen Brunson, because he's an absolute warrior the way he came back from his injury, because that did not look like a pleasant injury. He looked like it was on a lot of writhing in pain, could barely walk off the court with a significant limp. And for him to come back, and probably, I would say, 8 minutes later of game clock, probably 20 minutes of real time, he just showed out. He showed out in unbelievable fashion. Major props to him. But the next player I want to talk about, that was really the star of the show, specifically over the last 2 minutes, is Karl-Anthony Towns. Karl-Anthony Towns going into halftime had 3 fouls, and I thought that was going to be a big deal in this game. I thought he got into foul trouble early, and it was going to come back and haunt him, especially in the fourth quarter. But the way Karl-Anthony Towns shot the basketball at the end of this game, shooting 5 of 7 from 3-point range, I believe he scored 3 threes in a row. No, I think he scored 2 threes and then one ridiculous behind the backboard shot from the corner, falling away into the sideline, literally behind the basket. With, I think it was 2:30 left in the game at that point. There's highlights of it everywhere. But Karl-Anthony Towns was a major reason why they won this game. Both teams throwing haymakers at each other and over the last 4 minutes of this one. Just going back and forth. Cade Cunningham versus Jalen Brunson. Tobias Harris hitting clutch threes. Malik Beasley hitting a clutch three. Overall, major props to Karl Anthony Towns for his performance. And without him, I don't think they win this game either. They took a 3-point lead over the last... Well, at the end of this game, it is a little bit of a questionable finish because at the end of this game, Tim Hardaway Jr. did have a lot of contact on a three-point shot. I believe it says the final score of this one was 94-93. I'm trying to... was it a 1-point game or was it it must have been. I think Cade Cunningham went down the lane to shoot a floater, missed. This was over 10 seconds or so. Missed a floater, and then came back around and kicked it out to the corner to Tim Hardaway Jr. and contact Josh Hart trying to close out on the play. Tim Hardaway Jr. leaning into him, trying to draw contact, and basically it looked like a lot of contact in general. Tim Hardaway Jr. kind of going up. He wasn't intentionally trying to lean into him, it didn't look like, because the amount of time that was left, there was about a second left for Tim Hardaway Jr. to get it off. And Josh Hart pretty much closing out with a lot of contact on the elbow, on the shooting hand in general. And it just looked like a foul. I believe the referees came out after the game and said it should have been a foul. Coach JB Bickerstaff having a lot of words for the referees in this one. But the end result is what it is. You can't go back and change it. Josh Hart did finish with the game's clinching defensive play on Tim Hardaway Jr. Hardaway missing everything on the shot, did not even get it on the rim, and that was it. It's a 3-1 lead in favor of New York. They win both games in Detroit. Detroit still has not won a playoff game in Detroit since 2008. I believe it's now tied for the longest streak in NBA history in terms of home losing streak in the playoffs. And yeah, a tough performance, a bad performance. I don't know if I can call it a bad performance. Cade Cunningham did the best he could in this one. But this series either ends in 5 or 6 games. I don't think it goes 7 anymore. I don't think, unless I'm not picking them. I picked the Pistons to win this series. I can't pick them in this one. If it was 2-2, I don't even know if I could pick them in the 2-2 series, because I think the experience means so much more in Game 5s, Game 6, and especially in Game 7s. So I was still going to pick the Knicks if the Pistons had to win both of these games at home if they wanted a chance. If they wanted to close out the series to give themselves a chance, win one of the last 3 games, I would give them that credit, and I would have said they probably would be able to do that. But that's neither here nor there. The end result is in, and the New York Knicks are up 3-1 in this series. So that'll be that. They'll probably face the Boston Celtics in the second round. We'll talk a little bit about them later on in this show. But I'm going to take another short break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the Indiana Pacers series versus the Milwaukee Bucks, a series that's gone completely under the radar recently. Damian Lillard returning Game 2 for the Milwaukee Bucks. They of course win Game 3. I haven't been able to talk about that very much because both games on Friday and Sunday. But we're going to talk a little bit about Game 3, how Milwaukee really came back and won this game in decisive fashion, how they did. One player in particular being a major factor in this one. So we're going to talk a little bit about them, and then talk a little bit about Damian Lillard's injury scare as well in this one, because unfortunately, this could be the end for Damian Lillard in Milwaukee for this season. We'll see if he comes back. We haven't really seen players come back from major injury, especially the one that Damian Lillard might have just suffered. But we're going to come back from a short break and discuss a lot about Milwaukee Bucks basketball. Don't go anywhere.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting right back into it here, we're going to talk a little bit about the Indiana Pacers Milwaukee Bucks series, a series that's gone completely under the radar, especially with the Knicks Pistons series, especially with even the Boston Celtics and Orlando Magic series, and then don't even get me started in the Western Conference. This series has just hit the curb a little bit. A series that the Indiana Pacers have really dominated in the 3 games that they've won, all 3 games by really decisive fashion, outside maybe game 2 when they won by 7 points. I believe game 1 was a 19-point win for Indiana. This one being pretty decisive as well in game 4. 129-103 being the final score. The Indiana Pacers outscoring Milwaukee 28-19 in the fourth quarter. And it was pretty much, the game was over by the time the fourth quarter. It was a 10-point game going into the fourth quarter, so Milwaukee did still have a chance in this one. But when it was all said and done, Milwaukee's the... Before I get into Milwaukee a little bit, well, we have to talk about Damian Lillard before we can get further into this conversation. Damian Lillard suffering with blood clots, suffering from a blood clot injury before the playoffs even came around. 3 weeks before the playoffs even came around, suffering from that injury and really just trying to will himself back into the lineup, will himself back to be a part of this Indiana, to be a part of this series, be a part of this Bucks team, because we haven't seen Giannis and Damian Lillard on the court together in the playoffs yet. Both of them at the same time. We haven't seen it. Last year, Giannis was out when they lost to Indiana in 5 games or 6 games, I believe. And then this season as well. Damian Lillard being out for the majority of it. Game 2, he did return. Game 2 and Game 3, he played. He played last night as well, but Game 2 and Game 3 were really not playing too well. I believe in Game 2, he had 14 points. Game 3, he had 7 points. He's just not looked like himself. Something we haven't really seen from Damian Lillard in his past. But at the same time, when you're suffering from blood clots, you can't really do very much. You just sit on the bench. You just have to let your body relax, because you can't, if you suffer a muscle tear and you have blood clots and you can't get blood flow into that muscle, it causes a whole bunch of complications. So it was just best. It's just best for players in this situation, or in his situation, to just sit on the bench, just relax, not doing very much, to stay home and let the blood thinners do their job. And they did. He came back in 3 weeks' time, something that a lot of doctors have come out and said was shocking. You don't really see players come back, or anybody come back from a blood clot injury, or having blood clots in general, come back in 3 weeks' time and be able to play full-time, high-level basketball, especially in playoff basketball. So, something we were just major props to Damian Lillard for even being able to do this, to even being able to try to pull this off. Game 3, let's start with Game 3. Damian Lillard was not the star in Game 3. The stars in Game 3 were Giannis Antetokounmpo and another guy by the name of Gary Trent Jr. Gary Trent Jr., I'm trying to pull up his numbers now. He finished, I believe he finished with over 38 points in this one. Scored more than 9 threes. Just an unbelievable performance from Gary Trent, a player that has not gotten a lot of love, a player that's gotten a lot of hate specifically, just in terms of just not being a great player, just being labeled as the overrated scorer for some reason. From his time in Toronto, we remember his time in Toronto. We remember, I believe he was with Indiana as well for a short period of time, but in this one, scoring 9 of 12 from 3-point range, scoring 11 of 16 from the field, finishing with 37 points. The second leading scorer, or tied with Giannis with 37 points. The Milwaukee Bucks would not have gotten as far as they did if it wasn't for Gary Trent Jr. in Game 3. And honestly, it was just too much for the Pacers to overcome. I believe they just didn't. Halliburton shot 4 of 9 from 3 in that one. Nesmith was 4 of 8. Just overall, not a great shooting performance from this team. Obi Toppin 0 for 4. Just not a great performance in Game 3 from the Indiana Pacers, but you're due for it. If you're playing the same team, if you're winning a best-of-7 series, sometimes you just have bad shooting nights, and especially on the other side, when you have a guy like Gary Trent Jr. that's shooting lights out, when you still have Giannis on the other side, who's an absolute shot maker, he is a shot maker, but a force that can create his own shot, can just shift the momentum on his own. It's just tough to match up when you're having a bad shooting night like the Indiana Pacers did in Game 3. So we thought going into Game 4 it would be more of a closer series. Milwaukee obviously winning Game 3 by 16 points, being down 2-1. Game 4 in Milwaukee, continuing to feed off the energy. We thought Milwaukee would have more of a chance than they did. But at the same time, it's not Milwaukee's fault. We'll get into it. I've said it many times on this show for this Milwaukee Bucks team, and I believe I talked with somebody in the chat that was talking to me about it late on Friday, on the last segment on Friday night. This Milwaukee Bucks team needs depth. They're in the same spot that the Los Angeles Lakers in, except that they don't have the top-heavy stars that the Los Angeles Lakers have. They have a Doc Rivers. This could be Doc Rivers' final year as a head coach. We may never see Doc Rivers as a head coach ever again after this year. Hasn't really made any playoff success. Has had a playoff. I don't even want to get into his playoff failures because this is another conversation for another day. But this is most likely Doc Rivers' last year as a head coach in the NBA. A team in the Milwaukee Bucks centered around Giannis Antetokounmpo. They bring in Damian Lillard. They give up Drew Holiday 2 years ago. And they really haven't added anything since then in terms of role players. Pat Connaughton hasn't really grown past 2022 when he had a couple great games in the playoffs. You bring in a Kyle Kuzma thinking he's going to improve the team, especially off the bench. Doesn't really do too much. I thought he could be an X factor in this series, but he really hasn't been. He's been in Game 4 only scoring 3 points. He really has not been the performer that we expected him to be in this series. But if I'm the Milwaukee Bucks, the biggest thing that hurts, especially I'm not even a fan of the Milwaukee Bucks. The thing that hurts even just looking at this team is Damian Lillard, player that's come back from blood clots injury, and now a player that possibly just tore his Achilles in Game 4. Early on in Game 4, and I think it was the first 5 or 6 minutes of Game 4. We couldn't watch it because it was immediately after the finish of the Boston Celtics Orlando Magic series. So this game started a little bit early, but I believe it was about 5 or 6 minutes. Damian Lillard going down after a quick dribble. I believe Aaron Nesmith was guarding him, but just going straight down, not being able to put any weight on his left leg. Immediately calling for the trainers. If you guys remember how Kevin Durant went down, he immediately called for the trainers. He immediately grabbed at his Achilles, looked up at this Jumbotron and just you could just see it on his face. You knew it was a bad, serious injury. That was the exact same reaction that Damian Lillard had in this one. And it was just sad. It was unfortunate. It was sad to see, because a player like that it's just fought tooth and nail to get back into this series, fought tooth and nail to become another impact player for this Milwaukee Bucks team. And to go down the way he did, it's just unfortunate and sad to see, because we know Damian Lillard, when he's healthy, what he can be, the level of talent that he holds, the way he plays the game of basketball he has so many playoff highlights, and we know how good Damian Lillard is, especially in the playoffs. Will he come back from this one? We've already seen from Kevin Durant. The biggest example we've seen from a major injury like this, especially the Achilles. We've seen players come back from ACL before. Not always successful, not always the best, but more successful than Achilles. The most successful Achilles injury we've seen a player to come back and look closest to what he used to was Kevin Durant in 2019. And even then, Kevin Durant has lost in the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years, and this year he didn't even make the playoffs. So it's not his fault. We've talked about this, about the Phoenix Suns' disappointments this year, but you still don't make the playoffs. Not making the playoffs is not making the playoffs. There's no other way to slice it. So it's unfortunate to see. Damian Lillard, we wish him nothing but the best. I think he could come back for a year or two. I think he would do well on another team outside of Milwaukee, just because Milwaukee doesn't really have a whole lot of assets. I don't really want him to finish his career in Milwaukee, because Milwaukee does not have a whole lot of assets to put around him. Giannis is most likely going to leave, whether it's this summer, whether it's next summer, whenever his contract ends. He's most likely going to leave, I would say. And that is also another conversation for another day. Giannis's future in Milwaukee is completely up in the air. We have no idea what's next for him. And it really could be this summer. It could be next summer. It could be the following summer when his contract ends. But I believe after this contract ends at the max, Giannis Antetokounmpo will not re-sign with this team. He wants playoff success. He wants to succeed. He wants to compete for NBA championships. If he can't compete for NBA championships, he doesn't want to be on a team. And it's not about how competitive you are as a team. It's about how the team meshes. It's about how the team is playing around the star player and what you're putting around him. And the Milwaukee Bucks have just not served that role to the point that Giannis would want to stay with this team. And I completely understand it as a whole. But overall, that's just the standpoint that I have on everything going on in Milwaukee right now. I lamented it at the beginning, before the series kicked off. I thought Indiana had the deeper team, similar to what Minnesota did. For some reason, I turned a shy eye to the Los Angeles Lakers just because I thought their star power would be enough. Part of me still thinks that their star power could be enough to bring them back into the series based on how competitive they were in Game 3 and Game 4. I'm talking about the Lakers here. But the Milwaukee Bucks, I don't see in the same fashion. I think, especially without Damian Lillard, they don't stand a chance in this one. I think Indiana wins Game 5 decisively and will move on to face the Cleveland Cavaliers, as they just went up 3-0 on the Miami Heat. They'll most likely finish the sweep in this one. They play later tonight. We'll preview a little bit of that series. Of course, we're going to focus more on the Golden State Warriors Houston Rockets series later tonight. We'll preview that in the last segment, but I'll touch on the Cleveland Cavaliers as well. It just looks like the Cleveland Cavaliers are on a collision course with the Indiana Pacers in the second round. And funny enough, that would mean that the second round is pretty much all set up. We'll talk a little bit about the Boston Celtics in our next segment as well. But that would put the Indiana Pacers facing the Cleveland Cavaliers, and then the Boston Celtics against the New York Knicks, if all goes well. Nothing is decided, nothing is clinched, but that looks like where we're headed. That is the most likely outcome of all these series. moving forward into this last week of the first round. But yeah, that's about all I have to say. It's a tough series. It's a tough thing to talk about. It's a tough topic to talk about, just because Damian Lillard is one of the best players in the NBA, is one of the most underrated players in his entire career. Had to not, I wouldn't say suffer, but really carried that Portland Trailblazer team while he was in Portland. We saw many game-winning shots from him, winning series, winning games, having so many all-star appearances, in general, having so many playoff highlights in Portland. And we just want to see him win an NBA championship. We want to see him compete for an NBA championship. And we thought Milwaukee could be the destination for him, and it just hasn't panned out that way. So it's just unfortunate to see. But I'm going to take another short break, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at the Orlando Magic Boston Celtics series. A series that's kind of taken twists and turns that we haven't really expected. We're going to talk a little bit about Boston, but I want to take a really deep look into this Orlando Magic team, a team that I really expected to give the Celtics a little bit of a hard time. I picked the Celtics in 6 games, but I thought Orlando could win 2 games. I thought they would win both of these games, both Game 3 and Game 4. And I was only 50% right, so I'll take it. At the end of the day, it is what it is. We'll talk a little bit about it in our next segment. Don't go anywhere.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting into our next segment here, we're going to talk a little bit about the Orlando Magic Boston Celtics series. The Orlando Magic, a team that's absolutely flown under the radar here in this series in general. The Boston Celtics, obviously defending champs, obviously still have Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, Derek White, Kristaps Porzingis. Incredibly deep team. While it is still top heavy with their 5 guys, but they're 5 guys top heavy. Not 2, not 3, 5. So their entire starting lineup can compete with anybody's. And that we've known this for the last 2 years or so. But specifically these last 2 games over the weekend with the Orlando Magic and Boston Celtics, both Game 3s and Game 4 last night. Did we expect this from Orlando? We know we saw them give the Celtics a whole bunch of trouble in Game 1 in the first half offensively. We saw Orlando come back in Game 2 and make it a 2-point game going into the fourth quarter, at the midway through the fourth quarter, making it a 2-point game. So we knew that they were staying competitive. We knew that it was going to be a tough series in general. But did we expect the defense that Orlando had? We saw it against Atlanta, the way they went on a crazy run in the fourth quarter of that game in the play-in tournament. We saw in Game 3, they went on I believe it was either 19-1 or 20-1 run in the third quarter to take the lead in Game 3, and that honestly was a big reason why they won this game. Game 3 was a masterclass performance from Mo Wagner and Paolo Banchero. Both players have been studs in this series, have been the driving factor for this offense, have been carrying the offense. It's been a 2-man show, really, for this Magic team. But defensively, it's been incredibly physical. It's been incredible defense on the Boston Celtics, putting them into bad spots, forcing them into bad shots, forcing turnovers, just being in general discombobulating the offense, forcing Boston into bad threes. We know Boston likes to take a lot of threes, But the Orlando Magic have been forcing them to take bad threes, is something that we haven't seen teams do, beating them at their own game, forcing them to take bad shots. And it's been Joe Mazzulla's MO, but in Game 4, it was really they continued. The Magic almost won Game 4. Let's be honest here. Before we go any further, the Magic were probably 2 or 3 possessions away, especially down the stretch, were 2 and 3 possessions away from winning this game. The Boston Celtics really forced their size, willed their size, honestly, on the Orlando Magic in this game. Just getting to the free throw line at will, getting into the paint, forcing their size, forcing their strength, imposing their will on Orlando. Orlando was still trying to do the same thing, but at the end of the day, offensively is their problem. At the end of the day, it's their offense that's the problem. Their weakness is their offense. It's not their defense. Their defense can carry them to win sometimes. But when you're facing a team like Boston that's so offensive heavy, that shoots the ball so much, that scores so much and so often, it's just borderline impossible to compete against it the way the Orlando Magic are built. And that's honestly exactly where I want to take this conversation. You can see by the title, do the Orlando Magic have the most room to improve this offseason? Do they have the most to prove in the offseason? Can they grow the most? Can they become one of the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference come next year if they add 1, 2, 3 pieces to this team? And my answer to that question is yes. If there's a team that can improve the most in the offseason, it's the Orlando Magic. If John Morant is on the trade block, if I'm the Orlando Magic, I'm the first team calling. If Giannis Antetokounmpo is on the trade block, I'm the first team calling. If Russell Westbrook is available on the free agency market, I'm paying Russell Westbrook. If I am this Orlando Magic team, I am building up the I am focusing all my assets on building the offense, because your defense is so potent. Your defense is so strong, and it's so strong around a core group of guys, around Paulo, around Franz Wagner, around Wendell Carter Jr. Jonathan Isaac is a great defender, two-way player. Corey Joseph is a great defender. Contavious Caldwell-Pope is a great two-way player. Franz Wagner, Mo Wagner. When Jalen Suggs comes back, he'll be a great offensive piece for this team. And it's unfortunate to see that this team is not fully healthy with Jalen Suggs, because I think if Jalen Suggs was in the lineup, I think the series could go 6, if not 7 games. That's how good this Magic's team is in general, both on the offensive end of the ball and the defensive end of the ball. Defensively, we've seen it being able to stop this Celtics team. Nobody has been able to stop the Celtics team, and honestly, Orlando is unique with the way they're built. They're honestly built around a bunch of, around a core group of guys that are two-way players. It's not really offensive heavy. It's not defensive heavy. Paulo is one of the best young two-way players in the league. Franz Wagner is both tall and can shoot the ball very well, so he uses his length and his strength to his advantage. Wendell Carter Jr. is pretty much like an older version of Jalen Duren on the Detroit Pistons, with how he can be so physical. He can be he's tall, he can rebound, he can shoot. Well, I mean on the interior. He's a great lob threat. This is a great team. The Orlando Magic have the base, have the framework for a great team. They have 2 young stars in Paulo and Franz Wagner, and if they can continue to build around that, if they can get a seasoned veteran in Orlando, if they can get a bunch of good role players the way that Minnesota has, if they can build their team around the way they've built around Anthony Edwards in Minnesota, the way they've built around Tyrese Halliburton in Indiana, the way they've built around Jalen Brunson in New York, if they can build in a similar fashion in Orlando could be in the conference finals next year. They could be in the second round next year. I think I think if they went up against Cleveland, they would have given Cleveland a whole bunch of trouble in the first round. But the way they've given the Celtics trouble is, honestly, I picked the Celtics in 6 games. I thought Orlando would win 2 of these games, but it was ambitious of me. I really should have said 4 or 5 games. Probably 5, I would have said. If I could go back into my bracket and adjust some of the picks I made, I really wouldn't have adjusted too many of the picks outside of maybe the Lakers. Even the Pistons, I wouldn't have adjusted too much. I thought the Pistons' defense was just so strong, it would have given the New York Knicks offense a whole bunch of trouble, especially with how just kind of weak, not weak, but more wary, or just injury, just the New York Knicks team in general offense has not looked great at the tail end of the season. So I'm just shocked at how good Karl Anthony Towns has been down the stretch here and how much of an X factor he's been for this Knicks team. But going back to Orlando, I think Orlando is 2, if not 3 pieces away from being one of the top tier teams in the Eastern Conference. We've seen them give Boston trouble. We've seen them give Cleveland trouble. They have not been very healthy this season. I believe a lot of the time Paulo was hurt for a big chunk of the season. Franz Wagner was hurt for a big chunk of the season. Jalen Suggs obviously has been hurt since February. In general, we just know this. I just think this Orlando team is 2 or 3 pieces away from being one of the top tier teams in the Eastern Conference. So that's all I got to say about this Orlando team. I think the series is most likely going to be over in Boston in Game 5. If they can send it back to Orlando, I think they have a chance to force a Game 7. But we've seen this Orlando team, not even this year, but last year as well. They lost all 4 games in Cleveland. They won all 3 games in Orlando. So we know this team plays differently on the road than they do at home, and it's a thing that they're going to need to work on in the offseason. But we'll see if when they feel their back against the wall, if they come out with a bigger jump, a bigger spark, if they can spark this offense faster and honestly just play defense. If they can hold the Celtics offense and continue to play decent, consistent offense, I think the Celtics team could be had in a Game 5. And if they can force a Game 6, who knows what can happen from there. But yeah, that's all I got to say. I think this Orlando Magic team is just 2 or 3 pieces away from being one of the top tier contenders in the offseason. And I think they do have the most room to improve in the offseason. That's all I got to say. But I'm going to take one last final short break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the Golden State Warriors-Houston Rockets series. Obviously, Golden State up 2-1 in this series. Jimmy Butler still questionable for this game. I'm going to give a little bit of an update on Jimmy Butler. Overall, what the doctors have said, and honestly, a little bit of my prediction as well. And then talk a little bit about the Golden State Warriors and honestly how this game is is a must-win game for the Houston Rockets if they want to continue to have a chance in this series. I'm going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at Golden State Warriors versus Houston Rockets basketball. Don't go anywhere. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting right into our last segment of our show here, we're gonna talk a little bit about the Houston Rockets Golden State Warriors series, a series that's been really must watch. Every game has been unbelievable. Game 1 was the Steph Curry show. Game 2 was more of the Jalen Green, Amen Thompson show. Obviously, Jimmy Butler getting hurt in that game. And that's honestly it's going to have a wide effect on the series in general. Game 3, we saw Steph Curry continuing to take over without Jimmy Butler in the lineup. The defense of the Golden State Warriors playing a big role in this one. Draymond Green's defense. And I think a little bit of the Houston Rockets youth showed in that Game 3 with showing up, going into Golden State. Golden State obviously being one of the more hostile environments in the NBA. Not hostile, but just like loud. And just for young teams like the Houston Rockets, it can cause a lot of trouble in general. So we knew that was going to be a little bit of an issue, but it showed itself in Game 3. And the Golden State Warriors up 2-1 in this series, going into Game 4. The last Game 4 that needs to be played of this first round so far is this game. Everybody else now on Game 5 or looking forward to a Game 5. But it's honestly, this game does really depend on the health of Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler, before Game 3 being announced that he doesn't really have a whole bunch of mobility. He's been labeled with a pelvic contusion right now, a bone contusion. In general, he took an absolutely hard fall in that Game 3. Or Game 2, excuse me. And whether you want to say it was a dirty play from Amen Thompson or Draymond Green pushed Amen Thompson in general, whatever it was, Jimmy Butler took a hard fall in this one. And I said before, right after it happened, I believe I had the show on, it was on Friday. The game happened on Thursday. On Friday, I was back on the show and I said, Jimmy Butler is most likely going to be out through the series, through Game 3s and Game 4. And I said he was going to be back. If the Golden State Warriors wanted a chance to have Jimmy Butler back, a healthier Jimmy Butler, they needed to force the series to Game 6 to have a chance. Right now, they're doing better than that as they have a 2-1 series lead. But I still stand by that. If they want Jimmy Butler at his best or a better version, they don't want a hindered Jimmy Butler. They don't want him on the court playing and forcing himself through a little bit of a nasty injury. That was a nasty injury. Falling 8 feet, he was probably up towards the net, falling close to 7-8 feet through the air and falling on your butt like that, on your lower back. That is nothing but shooting pain whenever you stand up, whenever you walk, whenever you run, and especially when you jump. So Jimmy Butler has got a long, I don't know if he's going to be healthy through the playoffs. I think he's going to be taking a lot of painkillers, going to try his best to be out there on the court. But I think if you want the best version of Jimmy Butler on the court with you, you need to wait to a Game 6, if not at least Game 5. If you ask me, I don't think he's going to play tonight. I think he's going to remain out. I think Steve Kerr is going to keep him out just so he can keep a little bit of extra rest. Part of me still wouldn't be shocked if we still see a Jimmy Butler crazy game and he shows up and is like, I don't care, I'm going to take a bunch of painkillers and show up and play. We know Jimmy Butler is that kind of player. He wears his heart on his chest. He has the label of playoff Jimmy in the playoffs. And he's the definition of a warrior, and he fits nowhere. He doesn't fit anywhere better than wearing the label of Golden State Warriors, because he fits that title absolutely, especially in the playoffs. That's just my take on it. I think Steph Curry is going to need to continue to generate his own offense, because that was a big reason why they won Game 3. Him being able to spark the offense going into halftime over the last 5 minutes. I believe he scored like 3 threes going into halftime. Didn't have a great game. I believe he only finished with 20 points in this one. So it wasn't the best game out of Steph Curry, but he still had a great game in general. So major props to him. Also, did I say 20 points? Why did I say 20 points? I think I was talking about game 2 if I said 20 points. Regardless, I think I was, because he finished with 36 points in this one. Finished with 36 points, shooting 5 of 13 from 3, 12 of 23 from the field. And that's honestly what you need Steph Curry to do without Jimmy Butler in the lineup. You need him to shoot more. You need him to generate his own offense more. And you need him to carry the offense the best he can. Even though Amen Thompson is guarding him, we know he can generate space. Even though Dylan Brooks is guarding him, we saw him generate space on his own. His dribble is crisper than ever, looking eerily similar to the way he looked in back in the day, before the 2020 era. Back in 2018, we saw how crisp Steph Curry's dribble was, how he was able to generate his own offense. His shot is better than ever. He's shooting the best percentage he ever has in his career. So we just need him. He needs to shoot the ball more. Plain and simple, he needs to generate the offense the best he can. And if he can't get it going early and Golden State falls behind early on, I don't know if they can recover from it, really. If they also need a Brandon Pajim, they need a Buddy Hield. In Game 3, it was the plays of Buddy Hield and Gary Payton Jr. Buddy Hield going for 17, Gary Payton Jr. going for 16 points. They need players like that to step up without Jimmy Butler in the lineup. If they're gonna have a chance in this series, if they want to win this game, they need these guys to step up. But this game is also a must-win for the Rockets. If they go down 3-1, this series is most likely over. I say most likely just because we have seen teams come back from 3-1, but a young team like the Houston Rockets is pretty much... This is the equivalent of the Detroit Pistons coming back from 3-1 on the New York Knicks. And there is no way I'm going to sit here and compare this Golden State Warriors team to the New York Knicks. So that's where I'm going to end this conversation right now before I get my head chopped off. But yeah, overall, this game, the Rockets need to win this game. And the longer they push this series, the more they give Jimmy Butler a chance to come back. And honestly, that could be for the best. Do you want a hobbled, rusty Jimmy Butler coming back in the second round going up against the Minnesota Timberwolves? Or somehow if the Los Angeles Lakers can come back from 3-1 down, if they go up against the Los Angeles Lakers, do you want Jimmy Butler, a young hobbled Jimmy Butler like that as well? No, you don't. So this game is must win for the Houston Rockets, and that's where I'm going to leave that conversation. I think the Houston Rockets win this game, and I think this is going to be one of the best games of the playoffs because I think Jalen Green is going to come out, show up, and show out. Amen Thompson is going to guard up. Jimmy is going to play much better defense on Steph Curry than he did in Game 3. And Alperen Sengun is going to continue to be an X factor in the low post for this Houston Rockets team. The way he's dominated in the first 3 games in general, he's going to continue to do that. But yeah, that's overall what I got for this show in general. Please let us know what you think in the comments below. I love to see comments in the chat because it makes this much more interactive, not just me talking to myself. I love talking to you guys in general, but just making it more interactive. Let us know what you guys think. We can create a little bit of a debate going in the chat. But yeah, overall, thank you guys for tuning into the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It does really make a difference more than you guys think, whether it's positive or if it's just criticism in general. I like working criticism because it allows me to see what I'm doing wrong, what I can improve upon. So I'm open to anything and everything that you guys got to say in the comments. Don't be shy. I'm not going to get my feelings hurt. It's just, I like constructive criticism is an important part of this business, an important part of what we do here because it helps us build a better show. It helps me build a better show for you guys and it helps you guys hear more of what you want to hear, what you guys want to hear more often in general. So just please let us know what we can improve upon and what you guys like about our show in the comments below. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you guys once again for another unbelievable show. We got another packed slate of NBA basketball tonight with the Cleveland Cavaliers looking to finish off their sweep on the Miami Heat. And then, of course, the main course with the Golden State Warriors going up against the Houston Rockets in a crucial Game 4. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your days and happy NBA basketball. Be back tomorrow, same time, 9 a.m. Until then, this is Mehrob Fatemi, the host of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, signing off. Bye-bye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go